میخوانم وقتتان میگیرم انشالله که خوشتان به و قبول درگاه الهی شود و از دوستانی که ما را وقت دادن خداوند خیر بدهشانه برای سلامتیشان یک صلوات. اللهم صل علی محمد و آل محمد. باز شد بی پرده پیدا حسن حی ذوالمنن، شد عیان در خانه چارم علی دوم حسین. از کویر خاک می رویند یاس و ارغوان، در ریاض قدس می رقصند سرو و نسترن. حبذا مولود مسعودی که چون قرآن ورا، حضرت هادی شده از پای تا سر بوس زین. سر و قد کو با دهان گنجینه سر خدا، دل بهشت قرب حق رخسار باغ یاسمن. وصف مدح و نشاید، وصف مدح و نشاید گرچه چون ریگ روان، ریزد از لعل لب روح القدس در عدن. هم ابوالمهدیش میخوانند، هم ابن الرضا، هم ولی الله، هم نجل امام ممتحن. کنیه و عسکری و عسکرش جن و ملک، حکمران آسمان میر زمین پیر زمان. صلب پاکی و بدر 13 دریا صدف، قامت و 14 معصوم را سر و چمن. میکند سیراب از شهد لبش خورشید را، طفل نوزاده که نوشد با ولای و لبن، می شود با تیغ غیب مهدیش از تن جدا. هر کجا بیرون شود از آستین دست فتن، بغض و سوزان تر است از آتش سوزان دل، مهر و شیرین تر است از جان از جان شیرین در بدن. خود امام ابن الامام و نجل و مصلح کل جهان مهدی امام بت شکن. گر بپرسی کیست خاک راه سامرای و، بر فراز آسمان خورشید میخندد که من. نه عجب در شأن او، در سانه و کستور سینا برتر است. گرد و ست مسافتت مدهوش از آوای لن، خود حسن بابش علی جدش جواد ابن الرضا، بلکه اجدادش امامان تا رسول ممتحن. خیل آبا حجز آدم تا گرامی شخص وی، اتقیای روزگار و اولیای ذوالمنن. گر برد در مصر بوی تربت و را نسیم، می درد از شوق و با خنده یوسف پیرهن. عیسی گردون نشین با مهدی اشارت نماز، موسی آرد التجا بر او در امواج مهن. چشم بد دور الله الله زین همه حسن و جمال، هم جمال اندر جمال و هم حسن اندر حسن. مدح و گویم که در وصفش به هر صبح و مسا، میدمد مضمون نو از دامن چرخ کهن. بنگرد بی پرده حسنی را که در یثرب ندید، گر او ویساید بسام راز صحرای قرن. من نمیخوانم حدیثم، من نمیخوانم خدایش، لیک گویم در جلال خالق و مخلوق را چون او ندیدم مخترعینا. گر به دوزخ پا گذارت می شود دار و سرور، ورز جنت دست شویت می شود بیت الحزن. ای وجودت آخرین در الهی را صدف، وی به خاکت برترین پاکان عالم را وطن. نیست قابل در مدیحت، نیست لایق در ثنات، گر ز لب یاقوت یا گوهر فشانم از دهن. تو امام عسکری، من عبد سر تا پا گناه، من سیاهی در سیاهی تو چراغ انجمن. بس که شیرین وصف و مدح تو بود در کام جان، می سزد گردن عالم کوه کن در کوه کن. من نه وصفت را از آن گفتم که می دانم کی، بلکه مدح توستم چون جان شیرینم بطن. هر کی هستم میسم دار غم عشق تو هم، گرچه ناید از من بی دست و پا میسم شدن. برکشا کام و زبانی که تو داری حرکات، فرق سر تا به کف پای محمد صلوات.
Salawat Muhammadi. So tonight we're celebrating the birth of our 11th Imam, Imam Hassan Askari. I know it's a weekday. You have all taken out time from your busy schedule, so may Allah reward you. May Allah hasten the reappearance of our 12th Imam, inshallah. With that, please welcome our dear brother, Dr. Shakil Virjee, to the member with a loud salawat.
Good. I want to see this now. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. A'udhu billahi minash shaitani al-la'in rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya'i wal mursaleen. وخاتم النبيين أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. والصلاة والسلام على أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين واللعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد، برادران و خاران، سلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Imruz, today we are celebrating the birth anniversary of Imam al-Hadi alayhi salatu wassalam, and it is a happy day. And on a night like this, it is important to get some idea of what the Imam came to this world for and the kinds of important missions that he was able to accomplish. What I would like to talk about today is something that is really not talked about a lot about Imam Hassan Askari alayhi salam. And that is that if you look at the narration of Du'a Ahad, you will find that Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu wassalam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad, he's saying that for those people who recite this dua for 40 mornings consecutively, there is a great reward for them. It goes into the details of what kind of reward there is, but in summary, there is, a lot of sawab in reciting this for 40 mornings consecutively. Now, if Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was talking about who? I was talking about Imam Du'a Ahad, is about Imam Zaman alayhi salam. So from this we can decipher that at least Imam Sadiq and then all the other Imams have given a hadith, we don't need to get into all of them, talking about the coming of Imam Sahibul Asr wa Zaman. Everyone has talked, including Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The thing that I want to talk about tonight, inshallah, just touch upon it, is that in this chain of 12 Imams, Imam Hassan Askari is the last link before Imam Zaman. He's the last person in this chain. Okay, and he has to actually conceive him, make preparations for Imam Zaman alayhi salam in the circumstances of the time that he was living in. Now, times were changing during these times. If you look at what was the age of Imam al-Jawad when he was martyred? 25. What was the age of Imam al-Hadi when he was martyred? 42 I think it was. And Imam Hassan Askari was 28. So the previous Imams were living longer lives, and as we start coming down to these numbers from Imam Jawad alayhi salam, you start seeing the numbers are becoming real. The enemies have increased. The threat to the Imamat has increased. And it became really important for the Imams during those times to try and accomplish whatever they needed to accomplish very, very quickly. And this is the role where Imam Hassan Askari, in the preparation of the coming of the Hujjah, plays a very important role. Now, what was against him? One was obviously the Abbasid caliphs were trying to kill all the Imams. They wanted to end the succession. Everybody knew that number 12 is going to be the one who is going to stand up for justice, is going to stand up against everything. So he was a threat. So the focus of the Abbasid was to try and end this in whatever way that they can. So there was one problem that Imam Hassan Askari was dealing with. The second problem was that the Alawites, in those days, were rising up in all different places, in Qom, in other areas of Iraq and everywhere else. And although they were arising in revolution independently, they all had love towards Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. They all were attached to these Imams. So that was another threat that the Abbasid caliphs were also looking at. If these guys are successful, they may end up choosing one of the Ahlul Bayt and bring them into power. So there was always that struggle. And the third thing was that the caliphs were very envious of these Imams. Because as young as they were, Imam Hassan al-Askari became Imam when he was only 22 years old. We talked about that last time. The people loved him and they were attached to him and they were attracted. They were like magnets to the people. They were attracting the people. And the Abbasid Caliph saw that as a threat as well. So there were these things that Imam Hassan al-Askari was facing. The Abbasid attacks. Then there was another thing. Within his own household, his own brother, his name was Ja'far. In history, he's known as Ja'far al-Kadhab, Ja'far the liar, blood brother of Imam Hassan al-Askari, who was plotting against the Imam all the time. He was informant to the caliphs against the Imam all the time. And one of the things that he was spying for Imam Hassan al-Askari was the fact that is there another child being born? Is there some activity of another Imam being born, which the Abbasid Caliph was very interested in? This guy, Ja'far, was such a problem for Imam Hassan Askari. Right from the beginning, when Imam al-Hadi alayhi salam was martyred, Ja'far was the first one to come and to try and claim imamat before Imam Hassan Askari. So he was a real problem, to them, to Imam Hassan Askari. So Imam Hassan Askari now has to figure out a way in which the next Imam could be born without anybody knowing. Obviously there was help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this regard. But narrations say that when Imam Hassan Askari passed away, the person that came to recite his janazah was 5-year-old Imam al-Mahdi. So if he was 28 years old when he passed away, Imam al-Mahdi was born around when he was about 23 or 22 years old. He was very young and he had to deal with all of these problems. Eventually, the pregnancy was hidden. Imam Mahdi alayhi salam was born, and this secret was kept for a long time inside the family. And of course, this thing was led by Imam Hassan Askari, that nobody from the outside should know. However, He was also concerned about the fact that when he would be martyred, how will the people come to know that a son was already born? How will people come to know that the successor of the Imam was already there? So he had then, during this time, had to start informing the people, at least the people who were closest to him, that Imam al-Mahdi was already born. There is a person by the name of Ishaq bin Sa'd Ashari. Now, there are many narrations about people who had gone to the Imam and Imam had informed them about the successor. But this one is a little bit interesting because he went to the audience of the Imam and he actually sat down with Imam Hassan Askari. And he said, Yabna Rasulullah, when you are martyred, who is going to succeed you? Who is going to come after you? So Imam Hassan Askari smiled and he went to another room and he brought out this 2 or 3 year old young boy. This person, his name Ishaq, describing, he says his face was beaming like a new moon, and he brought him there and says, this is my son who is going to succeed, after me. So Ishaq saw that, and the conversation took place. Imam Mahdi left, and Ishaq also left. But then a day later, he came to Imam Hassan Askari, and he said, I was so happy that you introduced me to your successor, to Imam al-Mahdi. But he says, when you introduced me to him, you mentioned that he is going to be like Khidr and Dhul Qarnayn. What did you mean by that? What is this related to? So Imam Hassan Askari is telling this Ishaq that what I was relating to is that this son of mine, my successor, is not going to be among the people like I am going to be. He is going to go into occultation. He's going to go into ghaibat. And when I mention Khizr and Zulkarnain, I don't know why Zulkarnain, because that story somehow doesn't match, but Imam must have had some wisdom about this. But he said that he was mentioned because he is not going to be amongst you. He's going to be in occultation. And those who are lucky enough to get the tawfiq in believing in the Imam will have to wait for his reappearance. So that was the message, one of the messages that Ishaq gave. Others who were informed about Imam Zaman alayhi salam were basically told that my son is alive, he's born, and he will be the one who is going to succeed me. And there are other numerous stories. My main point is this, that this issue that Imam Hassan Askari raised with Ishaq about occultation and the awaiting of the Imam is something for us to just ponder over 1 minute, because there are many narrations talk about what is going to be the timing of the reappearance of this Imam. Let's put it into perspective. We have messengers of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the way from Prophet Adam alayhi salam to Khatamun Nabi, our holy Prophet. Then after that, we have all the Imams, up to the 11th Imam, all as present guides to the people. But to leave the people from that point in time until the day of judgment without any kind of guide would render us to maybe accuse Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of being unjust, because we can claim to Him that we were unguided. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has turned this and says, no, you want guidance, you have to want it. You have to ask for it. You have to seek it, and you have to wait for it. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, is the situation that you and I are in. There is a scholar, when I was reading about this, I copied and pasted, and I'll come back to this thing later, and then I forgot to figure out who was the scholar that wrote it. I just have the material, and I'll share the material with you. He's of the opinion, and this is really profound, and it hit me pretty hard. He's saying that the reason why you and I are waiting for the Imam, and the Imam is not coming, there is a certain delay, there is such a delay of the Imam's reappearance, is because we don't want him enough. Imam, when he appears, is going to spread, we say, justice and equity, across the entire. It is a global movement. It's not a local movement. It's not going to be in Albany or New York or California. It's a global movement. And everybody in this earth has to yearn for the Imam to come, for the Imam's mission to be successful. If it's going to be a small group, then the global movement of the Imam is going to have issues. And what is this yearning that you and I have to have? If we today maybe go to a small population in Afghanistan, or maybe Pakistan, in Palestine, and any of these places where people are really, really suffering from poverty, from sickness, from oppression, from tyranny, from any kind of things, if you go and you probe inside these people's heart, they're yearning for the Imam. They're yearning for justice because of their hal, because of their situation. But those of us who are living in a relative comfort zone do not have that intensity or that depth of yearning as those people have. Because we are in comfort. You know, whenever we recite the du'as, Ajjalallahu ta'ala farajak, and we say, Ya Imam, come. Okay, we say it from the mouth, but in the hearts, we're not ready. Or we're not that needy of the Imam, or we haven't developed that kind of deep need for the Imam to be here. In fact, suppose that the Imam comes today, he's amongst us. And he comes to us and he says, we are ready to go on this mission. You know, how many of us are really going to join him? Or, you know, the first thing is we're going to do is we're going to find excuses. Maybe he's not the Imam, or we're going to try and disprove, you know, his identity, or try and make some kind of an excuses. But we are not ready, my dear brothers and sisters. That yearn for the Imam is not there, and one of the reasons why it's not there is because to some degree we have attached ourselves to a lot of the good things that are happening in this dunya and are afraid to detach from it. Anytime, like, you know, person who is planning to go for ziyarat, for instance, you know, let's go for ziyarat. Who here doesn't want to go for ziyarah? Or who doesn't want to go for Hajj? Or who doesn't want to go for Umrah? Every one of us. Tomorrow, if the opportunity arises, you know, we will go. But what are the excuses that we normally give about not going? My business, you know, things are busy, my family, my children, I have to save up for somebody's marriage, I have to save up for... All the worldly things that we have prioritized take priority over our own spirituality. And for that reason, my dear brothers and sisters, when the Imam comes, we're going to be doing the same thing. That yearning for the Imam is not there. And the second part, my dear brothers, and this is really important, that when the earth is filled with injustice, you know, even now, if this community, if it was filled with injustice and we are seeking and hungry for a new kind of a leader, if it is going to be another one of the same people in the community, it's only a matter of time before that person becomes part of the system and becomes corrupt again, and the same old injustices and problems will start again. The real replacement for all the injustices that you and I face is going to be somebody who is godly, for whom dunya does not matter at all. And there is nobody the equivalent of this as the pure progeny of Ahlul Bayt, and that will be Imam Zaman alayhi salatu wassalam. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sajjad alayhi salam, in a hadith, they say that eventually the rule is going to come back to us, the Ahlul Bayt. You know, and there are many narrations that you and I will read that talk about this. That eventually the rule will come back to us. And this will happen after all other systems have been already tried in the world. Capitalism, Marxism, socialism, all isms have already been tried. Anything you can think about somebody having an idealistic form of ruling and leadership and justice will have already been tried, and people will have been fed up with everything, and they will be looking for a solution which is only lying with somebody who is pure like the Imam. And that is the time, my dear brothers and sisters, that we will start yearning for him. Otherwise, for now, all of us think we have solutions to all the problems in the world. And mind you, the kinds of situations and tyranny and injustices and problems that are happening in other parts of the world is only a matter of time. It's coming here to America as well. talk about racial discrimination, you talk about poverty, you talk about a lot of these kind of things, about fascism and all this. It's coming. It's just a matter of time. Because this is insan. We are going to go through this roller coaster ride, and some point in time, what was a good place becomes a tyrannical place, what was a tyrannical becomes a more decent place, and we're going to go all through all these circles. But the final abode is going to be the ruling of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salatu wasalam. And the thing is this, that we always say that Islam is going to spread across the world. Yes, the doctrines of Islam will be the ruling doctrine. But it's not about the doctrine, it's about the purity of justice, the purity of equality, the purity of how a system is going to take care of its people, where nobody is going to be upset, everybody is going to be treated equally. That system is called Islam. And it shouldn't surprise you and me that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we talk about Imam al-Mahdi, also has taken Prophet Jesus into the heavens as well. He is the leader of one of the biggest ummahs in this world. So when he comes back, which is the time of the reappearance of the Imam also, there will be a huge movement towards one simple idea, which will be endorsed by Isa alayhi salatu wasalam, Imam al-Mahdi. And this principle, while others may call it whatever it is a system that works for all of humanity. And that system, if it is followed correctly, is called Islam. So my dear brothers and sisters, the role of Imam Hassan Askari as the last link in the chain of Imamat to try and to get the Imam into this world, to let the people know, to keep him safe from the caliphs that were trying to kill him, was the role that Imam Hassan Askari played in making sure that the hujjat of Allah remains until Allah determines that it is time for even that to end, until the day of judgment, inshallah. So we owe this to Imam Hassan Askari, and tonight is the day of the birth of His Eminence that we are celebrating as well. So we pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gives the tawfiqat to us to find this real deep down thing within us, to have the deep yearning of wanting to have the Imam appear in a more sincere way than the way we normally say it, inshallah. Let us recite Dua al-Faraj together and end the session tonight, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Allahumma kulli waliyika al-Hujjat ibn al-Hasan. Salawatuka alayhi wa ala abai. في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد.
Can I please have the kids come forward and cut the cake with Dr. Shakil?
آقای مصطفی محمد و آل محمد صلوات. اللهم صل على محمد و آل محمد وعجل فرجهم.
Yeah,